Good morning. So, the most human thing about us. I'm going to talk relatively quick because I have 15 minutes. And I speak relatively quick because that's what I do and I'm excited about topics. But at the end of the presentation, there's a link to the presentation. You can always check it out online. So what is the most human thing about us? Basically, it's technology. The only thing that sets us apart from the higher primates, from other animals, is our technology. And that's what makes us human, in my opinion. Also in the opinion of Marshall McLuhan, a media artist. So we go to Paris, excuse me, every year. And I'm always amazed at the style of the Parisians. And it's so subtle, but also so nice. And just walking down the street, you see this lady, pretty, just a nice gray jacket, but slim pants and these shoes, and it's pretty amazing. So what I want to talk about is the rate of change, linear versus exponential. And what that means is, if you look at how we as humans evolve and how we see things, it's on a linear scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's how we know our world. But what's happening is technology is being developed exponentially. And what that means is it's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. It's kind of like the conference today. Last time it was, a bit smaller, and this time it's almost twice as big. And next time it'll be 4 times as big. And that's one reason there's so much disruption today, because we, as humans, we can't really comprehend what that means. So this is based on Moore's law. Here are some technologies that have to do with this exponential idea. And that touches upon almost everything that fashion is doing as well, in most industries. But it also means we can do silly things like this. This is called a droney. You guys know what a selfie is. This is using a drone to create a video. So this is a droney by the EC. And that's what's great about technology, because when things become cheap and accessible, you can do things that you never thought would be possible before. So 5 things really quick. Attention deficit. What that means is scarcity, in German, Knappheit, I believe. And yesterday and today. If we think about yesterday, it has to do with available resources. Yesterday, we could only watch a few channels and get our news. Today, we can watch over thousands of channels and get our news or be entertained. And that was a scarcity. So everything is going from scarcity to abundance. All of a sudden, we have all these things, and you have to make choices. So what that means is the new scarcity is our attention, our Aufmerksamkeit, right? And you have to decide what is important for you today, because there's so many things you can focus your attention, and it's just not that easy. You guys know Grumpy Cat? And we have to, it's a tech conference, so there has to be cats here. And the point there, money follows attention, right? So based on the last couple of years, Gwyneth Paltrow made estimated $30 million, which is very respectable. I think most of us would be okay with that. Grumpy Cat is estimated to have made $100 million, almost 3 times as much. And what that has to do is exactly what I was just saying. It has to do with attention. People put their attention where they want to now, and there's more choices. And the attention, if the money follows the attention. Number 2, connecting the dots. And this is really about data and using it holistically. There's different ways to do it, but it's interpreting and then connecting what people want to do. So there's silos, and you could set this up for companies as well. Independent systems. This is like Apple, dependent system. Everything goes through Tim Cook. And this would be like Google. It's more, we mix it up a little bit more. And that has to do with data as well. You can silo your data and have different people work on it. But if you don't collaborate, then you're not getting anything meaningful out of it. So an example of this is when the iPhone 6s came out. And this is something all of us in retail have to think about as well. How much product are we going to sell? You make estimates, you plan. But some of those estimates are fully wrong. But with technology, there's new ways to do that. So the question here was, can we estimate how much money Apple's going to make with the new 6s? And there were estimates out there, but with technology and working with different companies, in this case Foursquare, they were able to identify almost exactly how how many units, how many phones they would sell based on how many people actually visit the stores in the last couple of years and how many sales. So you correlate the sales of the last 3 years with the last previous iPhones versus the foot traffic, how many people actually visit the stores leading up to the thing. And they were able to estimate almost exactly how many phones they sold. And I mean, everyone knows it's pretty astounding how much product Apple sells. And if you think about Apple, it's no longer a tech company, it's really a luxury company. It's really a luxury company. And that's what you guys are competing against. You're not competing against the other companies like, fashion companies. Luxury, because when it's a luxury, then you compete about the resources you have. And when people decide to buy a phone versus a jacket or a purse or whatever it might be, a handbag, then that's a competitor. So they sold 60 million iPhone successes, which is not bad. So customer journey. This I'm just going to touch upon really quickly. Mostly, Google sits at the top of the sales funnel, and it's all about search and intent. And what's happening is, you guys know the funnel, right? The funnel of awareness, interest, desire, and action. And Google sits on top of that, because when you're looking for something, you want to find it. And Google's a great place because we index almost the world's information and you can find it. But what's happening is, how many of you are Amazon Prime members? So I'd say maybe not too many, about 20% of you. What's happening is, instead of looking on Google, what you do is you go to Amazon, you click the Prime, because you know you're going to get it quickly, and then you skip the whole discovery process. You go straight to Amazon. And I think the big challenge for retailers is, how do you beat Amazon, which is almost impossible. I think they do almost over 50% of e-commerce in Europe, which is huge. And what that has to do is, you have to create an amazing user experience from front to back, side to side, everywhere. And who does that well is Apple. Here's a video. If we have sound for the video, that'd be great.
I need an iPad.
Thank you. Kevin's gonna ring you on.
Thank you. Are we cool? Can I take this now?
Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
So long. There is no better experience in all of retail than buying something at an Apple store. In and out in 2 seconds, got exactly what I needed. They were super helpful and very smart. Hey. What's up?
How many have bought something from the Apple Store? It's so seamless. The experience is so easy. You don't have to wait in line. People are there, they're helpful, and it's just easy. And I think that's what's happening. The previous speaker talked about there's no online or offline, there's a blurring, and I believe that as well. I think people are so used to having a really great experience online, digital, that if it doesn't translate offline, then you can forget about it. So it has to work. They have to complement each other. This is also pretty brief. Contextual runtime. This has to do with mobile. And if you're not serious about mobile, then you're going to lose it. And you see that as well with Facebook. In like 3 years, I think 70% of their revenue is all mobile now. So here's a quick chart. But if you look at the smartphone, it's really been about exponential growth. And that's what I mean, the hockey stick. Because all of a sudden, with the smartphone, you can do things that you could never do before, and people are used to it. So if you don't really focus on mobile for any company, then you're going to lose out. And I would say, the father of this whole movement is the late Steve Jobs. It didn't start at Google. It didn't start with Nokia or any other company, Steve Jobs. And you think about all the influential companies today, and I would say none of them are German. All the great German brands were built in the era of Kaiser Wilhelm, 1800s. BMW, Adidas, Springer Verlag. And why is that? Because they're focused on something else. Whereas these companies are really focused on the user experience. And that's super, super important. And the value of these companies shows that they really do focus on the user. And this last thing is called visibly invisible, which is kind of weird. But basically what that means is, which is kind of scary for a lot of us, is when data is all in the background and everything is built into the environment. They call this ubiquitous computing or pervasive computing. That's what I personally find interesting, because it's no longer about focusing on this. When everything is built into the environment, you focus on people around you, and that's the important thing. The phone is not important. It's the people around you that's important. And to get there, you have to really understand your user, you have to understand the tech, and you really have to understand where things are going. And you have to be an innovator, because what happens is if you're focused on copying or adopting stuff later, you're going to be competing on price versus value. And that's really important. The innovation, the early adopters, the early majority, they're more concerned about value. And the other people that come afterwards, they just want a great price on something. You can decide where you want to go, but when things become cheaper and cheaper to produce and make, then you're going to lose out on price anyway. So it's really about a culture of innovation, which means a culture of creativity and learning. How much innovation, how much learning do you have built in the culture of your company? Those companies will move ahead while the other companies will fall back. An example of this is a project called Project Jacquard from ATAP, the ATAP team. And basically, I find it quite compelling because this is what I did research in 2002, is basically physical computing and how to get rid of the screen. In 2001, I got really sick of the screen. And I wanted to move ahead, and how can we integrate stuff? The problem right now with wearable computing, it's been driven by engineers, which isn't really a problem. But as we know, engineers are not always the most elegant at creating solutions. It's not always. If you have a hole in the wall, they just want to fill the hole. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks. Whereas fashion tech has to be driven by designers, because designers know they have a vision and they understand their users a little better. But what's interesting is when you combine the two. So this project is called Project Jacquard, and we work together with Levi's. And the point here is we want to, on a scalable level, how can we integrate technology? So we have Levi's, and then we have ourselves. And we work not at the end level, but directly on the machines, the weaving machines. How can we weave technology into the textiles, to the clothes? And then the designers can build whatever they want to build. And I think that's where things are going to go forward. When you don't think about the technology as a first-hand thing, you think about it as a secondary. First, it's about the experience. Here's a video with sound.
We like to think that we have these iconic products that haven't changed much, but the world is changing. So I think Jacquard presents a great opportunity for brand, for design, to open a door to the future.
In tailoring, we use methods that have been used and not changed for 200 years. So when something new comes along, it's really exciting. What's amazing about the project is that I don't have to have any knowledge about the electronics and how it works. So let's see what we can create with it.
Jacquard is a blank canvas for designers and developers. We are just at the beginning, and we are really excited to see what people are going to do with it.
So that's Project Jacquard. So just a few takeaways. I think it's really important. I think a lot of times as we grow older, unless you have kids, maybe you don't really find this, but when you have kids or you remember being a child, you ask so many questions like, why is the sky blue? How are people made? And things like that. And I think when we grow older, we kind of lose touch of this curiosity. And I think that's if we lose touch of that, then at one point we will be replaced by machines. That's a fact, because that's what keeps us moving forward, these questions. So a few questions for leaders. I think we're all leaders. And I think this idea, does your culture celebrate leaning into the future or protecting the status quo? And I think that's something we all have to question ourselves. Are you interested in protecting what you have, or are you interested in developing further? And that's hard to do, but that's something we have to do as an industry as well. And because if you ask these questions, you might not get the answer right away, but if you live, if you search and you live, then you will find the answers through what you're doing. So this last video is from an artist called Talia. And as Ola said, my wife is an artist, and right now she's kind of anti-tech. She's doing a lot of anti-tech stuff, but not like a Luddite. She's not going and smashing computers, but I think she's coming around full circle and trying things out again without the tech. But this video it's fun, and this is something we could do together. We could create stuff, if you want to collaborate, if you're a company or something. How can we collaborate and ask questions, and be part of the future? What's happening now? There's the link for the thing, and this video is, you guys know Tinder, and that's it. Thank you very much.